Okay, Shalom, gentlemen. Perek 28 and 29 of the Heilige Sefer Tanya. So they're the truth is they're two very different prakim. 28 does lead to 29, but they are very different. But 28 is a very small perek. It's an important message. It's very simple. And the rove of the class will be dedicated to pet 29. Okay, so Shalom, just in time. We're just beginning. So basically, in a nutshell, pet 28 is talking about what do you do when you're getting bombarded with machshavas zaros during tefillah. And period 29 is how to combat complacency, what my Rebbe calls smugness. Complacency is I think complacency means more to me than smugness. And like negative, like kind of self-pride, plateauing out and just losing interest in Yiddishkeit in a sense. So, okay, so the Rebbe basically says is if you're trying to daven, and we're not talking about you go to tefillah and you're kind of like, give a dog a bone kind of thing, just shut God up. I'll do my thing, blah, 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 and you're walking around. We're talking about guys trying to daven. Okay, he's putting himself into it and he's being serious. But you get hit with bad thoughts. Like for me, if I'm trying to daven properly, a key time that I get the most stupid, ridiculous, or bad, like really bad thoughts is like at Kriya Shema, like Birchas Kriya Shema. They just come out of nowhere. I'm just like, what are you doing? Just like why? Like why? And the Rebbe answers exactly why. So I'll explain in a minute, but the first thing that he says is when you're davening properly and you get hit with any kind of bad thought, or love dafka bad, it could just be, irrelevant, but a lot of the time it's bad. Immediately disidentify with it and do not entertain it, do not invite it in. And just, if you need to shake your head or whatever and just let it go through, then do that. But he says very clearly, and a lot of people, this is like a very contentious part of the Tanya. He says very clearly, he says, don't be a shoiter. He uses the word shoiter. He says, don't be a shoiter and try your hand at male hamidus. Yeah, bringing up the midas, which is basically what a lot of the Talmidei Ber Shem Tov speak about, which is the idea of a thought, for example, a neophdika thought, an unsneers thought, is really an ahava thought that's melubash in begadim tunafim, filthy garments. It's an avadika thought, unless it's some kind of violent thing. But otherwise, it's an avadika thought, and it's the energy of the machshava is ava, and it becomes enclosed in filthy garments. So there's an inyan of, so to speak, removing the garments and being male that holy energy back to Hashem. Okay, the Rebbe says, don't be a shoiter. This is not our business. This is the avodah of the tzaddikim. And there's people who are choilek on that, and people this is a very like a kind of contentious line in the Tanya, because a lot of people say he kind of like, this isn't the derech of Baal Shem Tov, but this is the way that I heard Rav Shais Taub say it is, no, this is the derech of Baal Shem Tov, and the Balatanya's take on derech of Baal Shem Tov is authoritative, maybe more authoritative than any other option. So I'm just putting it out there, but that's what the Rebbe says, and the reason why he says that you can't be ma'ala this machshava is because this machshava is coming from you. There's the idea of machshavas coming from other people sticking to you, and I've seen this bepoil with a tzaddik in Yerushalayim one time, who who I've seen it a couple of times actually with the same man. One time I remember we're just sitting at the table with a whole bunch of people, and he looked at one guy and just said, "Stop thinking that." And this guy that went, it was quite funny. And then another time when this man who's like a scary man and who, you don't joke with in any way, shape, or form. And it was at Shal Shudas, and it was just before Purim. And he's a very, very serious person. And all of a sudden, he turned around to the guy next to him and said to him, "So, what are you going to be wearing for Purim?" And everyone just like had not. And then the Rebbe himself like went like this. Can you? And the guy looked at him and said, "I was just thinking about that." And he said, "Can you please stop?" That's what you said. So there's the Inyan of machshavas getting that don't this isn't like like I mean it is touchy feely stuff, but it is real. I know that lemaisa. So the tzaddikim who can be male machshavas, it's because the machshavas aren't coming from themselves. They're coming from someplace chetzoni, and then they're able to, so to speak, strip off the bad garments and be male the heilige energy back to the Boden. But he says, don't be ashamed to that. This isn't our avoida. Just get it out. Just don't entertain it. Let it just go through and double down and recommit. And it's very, the more you put yourself back into the tefillah, the better chance. But then he goes on and he explains why these thoughts happen. And it's basically a chizuk for us, is that, we've created this system, the Rebbe explains, we've got the Nefesh Bahamis and the Nefesh Elokis. So a very nice way of understanding davening, this is a bit more of an oimek, Yoel, about Pesuka de Zimra, a bit more of an oimek into Pesuka de Zimra, is that you're really training your Nefesh Bahamis, because it's really the Nefesh Elokis who's davening. But the Nefesh Bahamis is kind of like having to sit there and watch, in a sense. And that's refining. The Alter Rebbe has big Torahs on this. It's refining the Nefesh Elokis. You're forcing him to watch the Nefesh. You're forcing the Nefesh Bahamis to watch the Nefesh Elokis davening. And join in as well sometimes, depending how much you can get into it, that you're training the Nefesh Bahamis to become more heilig, more godly. And this is one of the more pnimi reasons why our entire Yiddishkeit is predicated on Shachris. Because Shachris is the beginning of the day and a lot of other things as well. But one of the things is that you're actually refining the Nefesh Bahamis. The Nefesh Bahamis having to sit there and watch, like a soppy movie. Imagine it only takes, it's like you see the boys who've got lots of sisters. Yeah, they're more kind of passive. Yeah, or you look at my family, you see the girls who've got a lot of brothers, and you see they're much more aggressive. Yeah, but that it rubs off. It rubs off on the Nefesh Bahamis. The tefillah actually rubs off on the Nefesh Bahamis. Now, what the Rebbe says is like when there's a fight, and the one side is dominating the other, then the other side gets all of their energy back and tries their hardest to flip over. So he says that if you're trying in davening and you're getting bombarded with bad thoughts or irrelevant thoughts, and again, we're not talking about a guy who's just not there. He's all over. We're not talking about him. We're talking about someone who's actually trying to daven, and you can't keep your mind straight. He says that's a good sign. It's a sign that your nefesh elokis is into it mamash, and the nefesh Bahamis is fighting back and trying to actually distract you, like a kid who's like an animal who's being trained, who's kicking. Yeah, so it's actually a good sign, and you should take a chizuk in that. Should be mamash a chizuk for you. Yeah, to know that you're doing the right thing, and it's a sign that you're actually doing the right thing. And he says basically, don't get involved in it. It's like it's a misamekim and misnabam minuvel. If you wrestle with someone who's filthy, you're going to get filthy yourself. Don't answer it up. Don't try and just keep plugging on, keep going forward, and you'll see that B'ezrat Hashem, you'll break through it. And the Rebbe says in the worst case scenario, when it's just like that it's too much, it's too hard, it's too powerful, then he says you should daven. You should daven to Hashem without speaking, because you're probably at a time when you can't talk. He says you should daven to Hashem, b'sheket in your machshavas, that he should have rahmanas on you and get rid of these extraneous thoughts. That's basically Perek Kaf Ches in a nutshell, and you can remember that by koyach. Okay, koyach, the perek of davening, the koyach in the Tanya is perek kaf ches. It's a very short perek and a very simple perek, but it's very important. It's a very, very important perek. Okay, any questions? No. Okay. Chapter 29. Oh, yo, you want to say something? You're on mute. I just want to.
Shemaina Esrei. That's where I get hit. Shemaina Esrei.
Same thing.
And it's just, there's nothing special about it. No special.
No, it's formula. I was just talking about. I get mainly shmiced by Kriya Shema. It's to do with your neshama and all kind. I don't know, but if you're trying and you're getting shmiced, it's a good sign. It's partial. It's like take chizuk and double down. Take chizuk and double down. Remember, like you said, like you prepared for Hanukkah, and Hanukkah kind of just went away. It's a much bigger victory when you try and you don't get any kind of ruchnius candy and you don't care. And you're like, it would be nice, but I'm fine and I'm going to keep pushing. That's mamash givoldik. That's really givoldik. We should be to the ruchnius candy as well. But it's givoldik when you don't get it, and you maintain your composure, you maintain your simcha, and most importantly, you maintain your commitment. I'm not here for ruchnius candy. I've been created to be oived Rabbeinu Sholem. That's why I was created. Nikuda. That's it. Very important to constantly just to eat that all the time. That should be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was created for no other purpose other than to serve my creator. That's it. Nothing else. That should be on your lips the whole time, in your mind the whole time, in your heart. Just that's what we're here. That's what we are. We're Ovdei Hashem, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay. Chapter 29 is basically we've actually discussed a lot of what we're going to talk about now. I gave a share a few months ago called Redemption of the Heart. Does everyone remember that? Share we go. So this is like the main place for where that share came from, and he talks about what's called Timtum Alev. Timtum Alev. Anybody can tell me what Timtum Alev is the opposite of?
I mean,
yeah. Psichas Alev is simcha, basically. Timtum Alev is depression. Okay, the heart is clogged up. It's closed up. It's like a stone. It's just this hard, ossified lump. Okay, and that manifests. Anybody remember what that manifests as? In two ways, primarily. That'll be big brownie points.
Anxiety and depression.
No. Well, yeah, but that's not what I was thinking of.
You identify with you're causing a period between you and the Rebbeinu Shalom because you're focused on yourself.
That's the issue. It manifests as two primary problems. What?
Avelis?
No. That's also Psichas Alev. Like Maria's, that's when the heart's open. It's just from a pain from the left side. But the two manifestations of Timtum Alev are an inability to daven and an inability to be Makadesh yourself with the permissible. Doesn't mean you're going to fall into doing Averas. It just means you won't be able to be Makadesh yourself with what's permissible, whatever your avoiders are. And there should be, in the place where we are, there should definitely be avoiders in the permissible. We should definitely be above just avoiding Averas. We should be trying to be Makadesh yourself in what's permissible as well. So the two places where Timtum Alev manifests so most obviously is in an inability to pray and in an inability to control ourselves in things that are permissible. Okay, so this comes, the primary cause of this, he doesn't really speak this out so much, but this is from other places. The primary cause of this kind of like, what did I call it? Came up with a good word this time. Complacency. Yeah, my Rebbe calls it smugness. But I never really understood that. But it means basically this complacency, or this kind of like, it's not ego in like, look how good I am. It's like ego is in, like, I'm here. I'm not Chayev. I'm fine. Everything's like, leave me alone. I'm fine. I'm doing fine. That kind of egoism. Okay, so a more kind of light form than like outright arrogance. And it comes primarily from identification with the things of this world. The more identified we are with stuff of this world, remember, identification means the merging of ourself with X. It could be our football club, it could be our real estate portfolio, it could be our car, it could be the abusive childhood that we had to go through, it could be a backache, whatever it is. Whenever we derive our sense of self from X, that puts a layer around the heart. That ossifies, that puts a shell around our heart, and it's not good. It's not good at all. We don't want to derive our sense of self from anything of this world. So that's basically what the Timtum is. Now, how do you break? So the Rebbe gives this analogy from the Zohar Kodesh, where he says that if you've got a tree that's so dense that it won't catch fire, what do? You have to smash it. So this chapter is a bit of a scary chapter, but I've got like a kind of way out that's going to make it a little bit easier for us. To the point, I heard Rav Shais Taub say that the Lubavitcher Rebbe's at Sal said that this chapter isn't really applicable in our generation, and that we can only serve Hashem b'simcha. I heard him say that. I'm pretty sure I remember hearing Rav Shais Taub say that. So basically, the Rebbe spends a couple of pages, which in Tanya, a couple of pages is a lot of ink, on how do we splinter ourselves? How do you fracture the Nefesh Bahamis? And the primary goal, the primary method, I suppose, is by calling him on what he prides himself on. It's basically predicated on the idea that we all have to think that we're good. A person cannot think that he's not good, and I mean, a relatively healthy person cannot entertain the thought that he's not good. I'll just give you an example. My little sister is telling me right now about one of her friends who's not been faithful to her husband, yeah, and her marriage is like breaking up, and her kid, like, she's got 2 little kids, and she can't admit that she's done anything wrong. She's like, well, he isn't giving me the kind of love that I need, and he's never there for me emotionally, and every excuse, but she can't go to this place because it would break her. It would break her completely. So the Rebbe says, go there, go to that place. Yeah. So he gives you three basic things to think about. Think about all the areas you did in your childhood. I mean, now we've probably got what to think about what we've done not so long ago, but he talks about serious areas that we did in the past. Yeah, go back there. Go back there. And then he talks about just think about, you know, how selfish you are, basically. Minastam, how self-orientated all your thoughts, speech, and actions are, you know, do a serious cheshbon nefesh. And then he says even further, and then think about your dreams. Think about the kinds of bad stuff that go on in your dreams, because that's a real revelation of who you are and where you're holding. Okay, so again, I said this before, but this is not prescribed avoida for our generation. Why? My take is that you have enough things in the world nowadays that break you anyway, that you don't need to do the breaking yourself. Most of the time we need to just maintain composure to keep it together. Yeah, you've got, you know, never has there been a time in history when, you know, you could see everybody else's life in, you know, such a vibrant color, and all these fake things and all the advertising and all the, you know, and then the chutzpah of the children and all the different things that we're dealing with as well. The fact that we've got so much more time to think about ourselves than they ever did in the past. And all of these things come together that basically Hashem's kind of taken care of the breaking process for you. If you can not distract yourself constantly, which is actually a big danger, if you can let go of the distractions and just face life, you don't need to meditate on your various. You don't need to meditate on all the stuff that we've done wrong, because life is just built to kind of break you down. The amount of interactions we have now. I mean, just think about how many interactions you have on a daily basis with different people. You know, in the old days, you would never come close to interacting with that many people on a daily basis. How many opportunities are there for somebody to say that little annoying little thing that kind of shakes your self-definition a little bit, or makes you feel not so, you know, people a lot better than me, I'm this, I'm that, and whatever, you know. So there's so much opportunity now for this brokenness that you don't really need to go in and break yourself. But this is the point, is that it's what's really important to keep in mind is that as Beinonim, yeah, we're all Beinonim, B'ezrat Hashem, that as Beinonim, we see the world through the eyes of the Nefesh Bahamis. That's our default spectacles that we're wearing are of the Nefesh Bahamis. The Chiddush is seeing the world through the Neshama. So we say, Neshama Shnasata Bi Tahirahi. The neshama that you put inside me, or who's the me? That tefillah was written for the average Jew. The average Jew relates to himself as a human, not as a Jew. That's a very important thing to keep in mind. Which means when you get broken, your human kite is being broken. Because that's who we are. We're humans. We're humans. In this generation, we're humans who've got a neshama. Hillel said to the, he said, I'm going to the bathhouse to do chesed with this aluva, like this poor kind of, this poor wretched thing. And he was talking about his body. When he said neshama shenasata b'torah, he kind of said it like with a smile, because by him, it wasn't neshama shenasata b. It was, I am a neshama and I have a goof, whereas we are a goof and have a neshama. That's our default perspective on reality. So when we get broken in any way on a human level, that is a softening of the nefesh Bahamis. Like we've learned before when we've spoken about anger. Anger is generated by when that wall around us gets broken. And what anger is when someone, for example, someone insults us, yeah? What they've done is they've been memayet, they've made a piazza in that wall, that egotistical wall, if you want to talk about it as the shell around the heart. So what happens is we get angry, which means we turn that person, let's say it's a person, we turn that person into an enemy. That's what anger does. Anger turns X, whatever it's angry about, it turns that thing into an enemy. And that, so to speak, puts a wall, an enemy. Definition of an enemy is someone between who you have a strong wall. You put walls around enemies. And that wall around the enemy, so to speak, replenishes your own wall. So anger is a defense mechanism that rebuilds the broken wall of the ego. That's what anger does. So when someone cuts you up and when you're driving, and all of a sudden your blood starts to boil, and this person is now, he's up there with Hamas and ISIS, and you hate him with a passion. If you can like not go there and just be there and allow that experience to kind of just to sit in that experience of the miyut, of the wall of the heart, that is a tremendous growth. That's a tremendous tikkun for your nefesh Bahamis. You just allowed that means that when you go home for dinner that night, yeah, there's a good chance that you're going to be much more like cordial with your wife. That means there's a good chance that you're going to be able to daven better. There's a good chance that you're going to be able to spend a little bit extra time learning, that you're not going to eat like a behemoth, v'chule, v'chule. All of these things, it's all predicated on this sense of separation, a sense of self. So the Rebbe is like giving you this hardcore kind of avoider of how to kind of, self break. Yeah, but we really don't need to go there now.
Waiting for this a long time, huh?
We just need to be able to.
Waiting for this a long time. Finally got it.
We really just need to be able to like be in that matzav when the wall gets broken, and to not immediately turn back round with our hammer and our nail and our wood and start knocking it all back together and replenishing the wall. Okay. The Rebbe even says the idea of actually calling it names, calling the Yetzer Hara names like Menuvul, Meshuggah, Russia. But it's very interesting. This is just a side point, but it's very interesting that he says you can shout at it, call it names, but use the names that Chazal said. Why? Because I'll read you the loss. Lirgois al nefesh Bahamis, to scream at the nefesh Bahamis. Shehi yitzroi hara, there is the evil inclination. Bakol rash v'roiges b'machshavasoi, with a loud voice and anger in the thinking. Lo to say to him, atara v'rasha v'meshukatz v'masur v'menuvul v'chulei. But this is very important. Only the words that Hachmeinu Zal said be'emes, because you can get caught up in it. See, characters are certain. That's what we're going to finish off by saying. Any avoider can become the service of the ego. Any avoider. And the Rebbe is telling us that even the assassination of the ego can become egotistical. It's a scary thought. Everything can be turned against. So he says, like, so you can imagine a person sitting there starting getting angry. This is one of the dangers of his boydidus, not his boydidus, his boydidus, that it can become it's kind of a knife edge of falling into destructive places. So this is one of the issues: is if a person starts screaming at his lower self, yeah, if he lets go, it can end up being that it's his lower self shouting at something else, and really what he's doing is just replenishing the ego and just becoming more and more. He's just going lower. He's screaming at his lowness, going lower. Whereas when we're using the words of Chazal, yeah, then you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. I suppose that's also an interesting thing to think about with Shemona Esrei. A lot of the education that I received is that, like, you say Shemona Esrei, okay, and it's Gewaldic and it's Heilig and whatever. But remember, the real avoider is at the end of Shemona Esrei when you're giving your own personal bakashas. Yeah? That's not true. The avoider of Shemona Esrei is Shemona Esrei. That is Heilig, and it's so Heilig because it's not you speaking. It's the Rebbeinu Shalom speaking. It's his wish list. Shemona Esrei is his tefillah. So you just become a mal. That's why it's bechinas atzilus, because you're not davening for you. It's his wish list. You're just speaking it out. You just become a window for him. That's very, very heilig. At the end, if you've got your own bakashas, that's why. Why is there no bracha for your why is there no bracha for your children? The thing that people daven for the most is children, yeah? Why is there no bracha for your children, Shemona Esrei?
It's got to be your own words.
Yeah, but the point is that because it's not about your children in Shemona Esrei. It's not about you. Shemona Esrei is not about you. Shemona Esrei is the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's why everything's we. And then you get to the end and you want to put in some personal bakashas. Okay, do that. That's fine. That's praiseworthy as well. But the actual avoider of Shemona Esrei is there is no you to have children. You're davening for everyone's children because you've merged with the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's why Shemona Esrei is Atzilus. Whereas Kriya Shema and Berachas Kriya Shema is Bria, Psukei Tzimah is Yitzir, b'chulei. Okay, so what he says is basically once we've the reason why this kind of character assassination works is because the Sitra Achra. Remember, we've got the two main words for Ra is Klipa and Sitra Achra. And they're referring to the same thing, mamash, but they are highlighting different aspects of that thing. So Klipa highlights two things, which is really one thing: the fact that it's a means to an end, and that it covers over. Yeah, which is really, I'm not going to get into that now, but that's the same thing. Some of you might remember. Yeah, that's what Klipa tells us. Sitra Achra is alluding to the fact that it doesn't have any mamashus. It doesn't have anything of its own. It's just the Sitra Achra. What is it? I don't know what it is. It's just not that. It's just the other side. There's the Sitra de Kedusha and the Sitra Achra. Well, why can't you call it something? Well, there's nothing to call it. It doesn't have a name, like Esav's Malach. It doesn't have any mamashas to it, Bichlal. And that's exactly why this works, this breaking it down, because really it's just a big puff of smoke. And if you can just be oimed, it's so funny because it's like you just feel like you can't. It's like impossible. It's like a wall that's impossible to climb. And once you like begin and you've decided that you're going to do it, it's like done. It's already finished. And it's like you can't believe that that's the Indian of the Rishayim seeing it like a Chut Zayim, and the Tzaddikim seeing it like a mountain, is that you can climb over these unbelievable things because it doesn't have. Once you break that klipa of realizing that it isn't anything. Like we've spoken about this a little bit, but I've been talking to my wife about this a lot over the past few days. This idea of meditating on the fact that that your emotions are just chemicals. Your emotions are to meditate on that is one of the most helpful things that I've ever come across, mamash. You feel like you want to kill everyone and that your life is rubbish and that you're the most rubbish person in the whole world and all you want to do is just run away and scream, yeah? It's just a chemical. It's just a little bit of chomer in your blood, and the minute it's gone through your system and it's replaced with another chemical, you're going to feel completely different. And if you can just hold it out, just hold out, Gamze Yavor, it's going to pass, just like urine. It's going to go through. It's going to pass. Yeah, it's like the silver bullet to dealing with, because it's true. You're not suppressing or denying the feeling. It's 100% real. You're just uncovering it for what it is. It's not real. My life isn't rubbish. I'm not the worst person in the world. Yeah. That's all the thinking that gets, that's this little chemical that assumes a form of letters and words. That's a lie. But the chemical's real. The chemicals, Marsh, are a real thing. So it's the same avoider. You're calling it on what it is. And like, imagine, I've been doing this. Yesterday, I was feeling like horrible. And I sat there and I have one of my kids takes one of, like these Ritalin medicine things, but you mix it together. It's like a little pot, literally like this teeny little pot with like that much liquid in it. Yeah. And I'm sitting there feeling like I want to, just, burn my car and smash the world. Yeah. And I'm sitting there and I'm just imagining this teeny little vial of like, 1.5 millimeters of like this little pasty liquid. And I'm thinking the reason why I'm feeling right now like this is because of those 3 drops of liquid. That's it. And they're going to be gone probably in an hour from now, completely gone out of my system. I'm not going to feel like this anymore. I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm not gonna allow this to take root and mamash destroy my day and make everybody else miserable around me. And it's a very, very powerful tool. I don't know of any more powerful tool to deal with negative emotions than that. Even so, I'm having a habit. Maybe you know what, Tucker, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make a little picture of a little vial. I'm gonna send it to everyone. You can put it in your wallet, and I'm gonna do one myself. That'll be helpful to be able to take it out when you're feeling like you want to kill something, and just look at a little picture of a teeny little 2 drops of liquid and think, well, that's what this is coming from right now. I'm gonna do that. Okay. So just to finish off, the Rebbe brings the story of the Meraglim, and he only mentions the first half. But when you take it to its logical conclusion, you remember the second half of the story. It's moiridic. It adds a whole new dimension. So the Rebbe basically says that by the Meraglim, the Meraglim came back and said we can't go to Eretz Israel. God isn't strong enough. Basically, they said he won't be able to do it. Yeah, and then basically Moshe screams at them. And Hashem screams at them. Moshe screams in the name of Hashem at them. He doesn't show them any miracles or how powerful God is or whatever. And then they turn around and say, okay, yeah, we'll go. We can do it. So the Rebbe shows from this story that this is the whole point, is that the Meraglim had experienced this kind of timtum, this ossification of ego, whatever, on their level. And Moshe comes along and screams and shouts at them. He didn't say, no, God can do it, or here, look at, here's the stick and the snake and all kinds of funny stuff so that they believe in God's powers. He just shouted at them, said, your body's going to drop in the desert, you're going to die, blah, 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 blah. And then they were like, okay, come on, let's do it. And they all went to do it. Yeah. So he's showing you that this breaking of this shell is what allows the neshama to shine through, and you can go weiter. But this is the really cool bit. You remember what happens after once they say, yeah, we can go? You remember what the next part was? Moshe turns around and says, no, 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 no. You can't go now because you're going to, Hashem doesn't want you to go anymore. And they're like, no, no, we can do it. We can do it. And they go back and they get schmeiced by a Malak. Yeah. What happened is so clever. They let go of the basic identification with whatever it was that made them doubt Hashem. But then they fell in to the religious identification. They kind of fell out the pot into the frying pan. You understand what I mean by that? Is that they were identified originally with whatever it was that broke their emunah in Hashem, that he couldn't bring them into Eretz Yisrael. And then immediately after they broke that klipa and they were ready now to actually serve, Moshe says, no, no, no. And they were like, yeah, 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 we can do this. We can do this. I've got a whole share with all the Lashonis in the Chumash. It's very cool. But the point is that then they re-identified as like religious
Zionists. Zionists.
Or Zionists or Nature Carter, either way, they're both as bad as each other. Yeah, that they re-identified with the religious zeal, and they were like, yeah, we can. Hashem's like, no, 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 no. And they're like, yeah, yeah. And they go back and that was just as bad. So it's this idea of be very careful. This is the share, but we're finished now. But basically, be very careful because you're always this identification with this world, which is what it's all about to not do, is available everywhere you turn. Every single avoider, every single place, you have to be on guard with it all the time. A really helpful tool in this avoider is the book that we're reading right now, Reclaiming Sanity. He really what's the word? He informs you, he makes you conscious of just how easy the falling into identification, especially when you get into where are people holding? What day are people holding at right now?
Yeah, not sure if everybody has a copy. If you don't have a copy and you're interested in it, please text me on the chat and I'll get you a copy. But I'm personally on day 23 or 24.
Okay, so when you the book changes at pay whatever, when you get into like the 50s, then it's gonna pick up gear. It's gonna pick up gear to a whole new level of like understand. But he just again and again and again, he's just saying, be careful with this. The ego's lurking here. Be careful, the ego's lurking here. Be careful, the ego's lurking. And the more you get, the more, especially with that book, and the more you're involved in it, and the more you're thinking about it, the more you're talking about it, the more you're discussing it, the more you're teaching it, yeah, the more you become aware of it, and you can start to just taste it everywhere, and you become very very conscious, and you're in a really good position to you've always got opportunities. Literally, so this is the most exciting thing, is you've constantly got opportunities to be involved in this fight, to constantly be suppling up your nefesh Bahamis, to constantly be making it more hailing, literally, constantly, the whole time. That's such a geschmack. That's gewoldet. Like, it's like the guy who's got this wonderful job that he loves, and he's like, he can do it 24/7, literally. You're like a kid in a candy store, That's what it is. This is our avoider. So as you get more familiar with the avoider, more familiar with the enemy, so to speak, then you'll realize that you've got these. So just like the spies, they fell out of the identification into the identification of the religious identification, which is a horrible identification. They fell into that again. It's available to us the whole time.
Were they going after the Ruchnius candy, so to speak?
Not that is like the whole Inyan of the Miraglim, but this Inyan of the Miraglim, it wasn't really like that. It was, that is the Inyan Bichlal of the Miraglim. That this Inyan was the idea of identifying with your religion. Yeah, we're not you know who, like the most disgusting people I see right now is what we're looking at on the news. These insane, you know, Islam, whatever, these people, yeah. It's such ego. It's the exact opposite of what Yiddishkeit is. The exact opposite of this like violent identification with religion. That's not what Yidden are. Bichlal. Avram Avinu was like the most irreligious person in the whole world. Yeah, our goal is to be absolutely irreligious. We want nothing at all to do with religion whatsoever. We want to be over the Shem Mamish. That means whatever he wants for me. I'm not identified with any shtick. No shtick. Just him. That's it. That's basically
all
it.
we have to do is now put that on a bumper sticker and create a movement.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
Atheism?
What?
Atheism, yeah.
Atheism is a violent religion. My thoughts are these crazy, you know, these crazy school shootings and stuff that happen in America the whole time.
Yeah.
They are atheist terror attacks. That is exactly the same as the it's exactly the same as the Muslims blowing themselves up or whatever. The exact same. Atheism is a religion 100%. Yeah, that is the atheist terror attacks. Is these school shootings and these crazy things is coming from that kind of nihilistic mindset where it's the ultimate expression of what my religion stands for, which is nothing. That's what their religion stands for. That's just my thoughts on it. Okay. Any questions?
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach. Okay, so have a good week as well, Hashem.
Good.
Magazine, every culture.